This is an absolute heist for the Toronto Maple Leafs, as following what has been a very interesting start to the season, a brand new report has dropped surrounding one player that not only has fans very intrigued, but is an absolute robbery for the Leafs as it pertains to a trade. We're going to break that down as well as a few other updates ahead of their next game. A ton to go over on this episode, but before we get into it all, if you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, quick reminder, hit that subscribe button. About 70% of you who are watching right now aren't subscribed to the channel. We're getting closer and closer to the big goal of 25,000 subscribers. So you guys want to help with that, and of course the bigger goal of 30,000 subscribers. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Darius, a lot to go over today, and like we've been talking about around and on the videos and also in the live streams yesterday, trade talks are going to start to heat up a lot sooner than previous years, because it does seem like the Leafs are still one piece away, and reports are actively ongoing about them shopping multiple players. There seem to have a bit of a logjam there. In the extra spot, you have Sammy Blais, you have some other guys. But a brand new report, and that's a little preview of who we're talking about here, but a brand new report has dropped for a few different things. And let's start with this one. It's from Chris Johnson talking about how the heat is already up for the Sabres and that they are going to be looking to sell some of their most prominent pieces. And then late last night after the game, a new report dropped surrounding Nick Robertson, saying that he's hoping for a larger role, a larger opportunity in the NHL. Treliving has recently talked with clubs that may have some interest. Maybe it's time to give him a fresh start somewhere else. In our live stream, a lot of people were talking about Alex Tuch. We have a new article that dropped about it, a new report that Nick Robertson could be on the move. Things are lining up pretty clearly here for not only a trade, but for a trade for an actual, not superstar necessarily, but a really solidified top six guy. And it might involve Nick Robertson and, of course, more in the trade package.
And a lot of insiders are already talking about how the Toronto Maple Leafs, Brad Treliving, are very active in terms of, looking for a top six forward. They were in the offseason, they couldn't get it done. And now I think there's going to be more flexibility because certain teams are going to know where they stand as the season continues to progress. Now, I don't think it's going to happen in season. I don't think they're going to trade for one in November or December. I think it's going to happen closer to the deadline, if not at the deadline. But they're kicking tires on a lot of things. And when you look at Nick Robertson, I think you're always going to lose, to a degree, a Nick Robertson trade, right? Like, I think he's going to go to another team, get more playing time, play in their top six, and he could score 30 goals. We've seen it in the past. All he does is score goals, right? But it's the stuff away from the puck that has been a question, and consistency, right? And same with Bobby McMahon, for example, too. But I think, they can probably leverage Nick Robertson at this point to go out and get another guy or a top six winger. Obviously, it would have to be a bigger, trade package, but I do wonder if they're looking at that. So multiple insiders like Darren Drager, and again, for all of them, take it with a grain of salt, right? Especially with the time of year. Some of this stuff is going to pop up a little bit earlier, I think, this year than in previous years because of, last year and what happened with Mikko Rantanen, for example, and these big trades can happen at any point. Take it with a grain of salt. But I do believe they are looking to add, especially around the trade deadline. That's kind of Brad Treliving's style. He's going to wait around. He likes to build his team in the offseason and see if they need one, maybe two pieces to go into the playoffs with. So things are going to heat up. And there's one player in particular that I think would fit the Leafs perfectly. But the biggest question to me, looking at the player, is does he want to leave the team he's on? And it's kind of complicated because I think in theory you would want to leave the Buffalo Sabres. But I think that it could work out really, really well for the Leafs, unlike some other targets we've been looking at.
And it is, we'll dive into it. You can see here an article dropped a few days ago. New situation involving Alex Tuch presents perfect opportunity for Brad Treliving. And of course, these articles are happening because of all the reports about Brad being willing to make a move. And Jeff Merrick believes that if the Sabres don't improve by late November, Tuch is as good as gone and would want a move out. Couple that with David Pagnotta, who, while admitting that Tuch does want to stay as long as he can, there's only so much he can take over his career. So this is some good context here. A couple pretty notable reporters. Jeff Merrick used to be with Elliot Friedman on 32 Thoughts, and of course now David Pagnotta, a very notable reporter. Alex Tuch, Darius, this guy is super interesting. People already talking about what an Alex Tuch lineup could look like. He is an absolutely elite goal scorer. Now, this has Easton Countdown in the fourth line. We'll touch on that again in a minute. Something to keep in mind. So Nick Robertson's cap hit's $1.825 million. Alex Tuch's only $4.75 million. He's only 29 years of age. He is a pending UFA. But this is a guy that is coming off of a year, multiple years, where he's been very, very good. His last full season, 36 goals last year, 31 assists with 67 points. Thing is, though, he is in line for a bigger contract. So you have to assume there would be some sort of, sign and trade, or probably more likely, a contract in place. So if he gets traded here, most likely they'll have an extension in place, or at least very confident in getting one done. But Darius projected around however many years, $9 million a year over, let's say 6 years or something like that, similar to Nikolai Ehlers. I actually think Tuch's a better player than Nikolai Ehlers overall, but What are your thoughts on this? And let's make it clear. I'm not saying it's going to be Nick Robertson for Tuch straight up. There'd obviously have to be more in there because Alex Tuch is a very good player, a much better player than Nick Robertson. But if you can leverage Robertson and one of their prospects, not saying Ben Danford or Eastern Cowan, maybe it might be a Ben Danford, but probably more so some of the other guys. If the Sabres run out of leverage here, they might want to take a flyer on a guy like Nick Robertson plus draft picks maybe as well, even though the Leafs don't have a ton. What do you think about Tuch, and where do you think a trade would actually work as it pertains to assets for the winger?
Well, I think it makes a lot of sense. And again, maybe not one for one Nick Robertson for Alex Tuch, but maybe it's a subsequent move, right? So you move Nick Robertson or maybe another piece, and then you can make a move for Alex Tuch to bring him in. Again, he's projected to make quite a bit of money, right? Like $9 million moving forward, but $9 million can get you 40 goals in this player, which I think is great value with where some of the contracts are going in the league. He's still relatively young. The biggest thing for me that kind of came out last season is he doesn't want to leave Buffalo because he's from New York State. And the rumor was if he were to go to another team, it would probably be the New York Rangers. He kind of wants to stay in the state, stuff like that. But the Leafs are not that far from New York State. So if it's like, hey, do you want to play in Vegas or San Jose or Toronto, right? Like if you're bringing it up that way, then I think maybe he is open to coming to Toronto in that way that he's closer to home, right? So it could be an interesting option. He's also physical, right? If you look at some of the other options we're looking, just scoring wingers, stuff like that, this is a guy you can win with in the playoffs. So I think that it makes a lot of sense on paper, at least, to bring him in. He would fit the team. He's still relatively young, so it's not like you're bringing in, a 36-year-old, 37-year-old that, is going to help the team in the playoffs and stuff like that because they have experience and they're old, right? That's not the case here. I think he can really add something to the team. And him and Tage Thompson have been leading the Buffalo Sabres in terms of goal scoring. And if you look at the advanced analytics from last year, the Sabres were awful, but offensively not so bad. And, it was because of him and Tage Thompson. So I think he would fit in perfectly. He can be a physical presence. I think they need another top six player, as we're seeing now, just another guy who can be another impact player, can chip in the playoffs. And for his current cap hit, at least for this year, makes a ton of sense. And even moving forward, if he is to sign for 8 or 9 million, you get 40 goals for 8 or 9 million. I feel like that's pretty good value. So it is an interesting move. I think the biggest question is, does he want to leave the Sabres? And my answer would be probably, if things continue to go this way in Buffalo.
Yeah, he's an absolute beast. I said 29. He's, I think, 30 now this year. Regardless, really good player. And of course, this line was made before the season started. So people have been talking about this for a while, but this is also a fully healthy line as well. Like, maybe we see a world where Tuch is on that second line and helps rejuvenate Tavares and Nylander, even though they're both played pretty well over the last game. It's very interesting. Makes a ton of sense to me. And at the end of the day, I think this team has a lot of work to do still, a lot of things left in the to be desired. But for now, the way the lineup is without any of these players, I do think they're going to be a very solid team. Let us know down below what your thoughts are on all that. Thank you guys for watching. See you later.